Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. It's going to be another busy day today. Pete Hegseth yesterday, President-elect Donald Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense, faced an intense confirmation hearing with his allies celebrating his ability to lead the Pentagon and his critics, particularly the Senate Democrats, raising questions about his qualifications and ideological stance. We have the highlights for you. There are political consequences for opposing a party line vote, and Representative Thomas Massie, the Republican from Kentucky, witnessed that yesterday when he was removed from the influential House Rules Committee after voting against Speaker Mike Johnson during the House leadership election. The ladies on The View debated on whether you can love your country and perform at Donald Trump's inauguration. The View co-host Joy Behar criticized country music superstar Carrie Underwood for agreeing to perform at President-elect Trump's inauguration on Monday. Behar questioned Underwood's decision, suggesting it conflicted with her professed love for America. This is one you're not going to want to miss.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
The South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association held a news conference in the South Carolina State House on the first day of the legislative session yesterday to make legislators aware of the struggle they're still having obtaining affordable liability insurance. Many businesses have closed in the past 2 years. Chris Smith, executive director of the association, joins us later in today's show. So Pete Hegseth, the nominee for Secretary of Defense, faced a very intense hearing yesterday, as expected. No big surprises there. It sparked widespread reaction across social media and political circles, while his allies celebrated his performance as a focus on restoring military strength and readiness. His critics, particularly those Senate Democrats, raised questions about his qualifications and ideological stance. In his opening statement, Hegseth talked about how he's doing this to support the warriors.
And to all the troops and veterans watching and here in the room, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, soldiers, pilots, sailors, Marines, Gold Stars, and more, too many friends to name. Officers, enlisted, black and white, young and old, men and women, all Americans, all warriors. This hearing is for you. Thank you for figuratively and literally having my back. I pledge to do the same for all of you. It's an honor to come before this committee today as President Donald Trump's nominee for the office of Secretary of Defense. 2 months ago, 77 million Americans gave President Trump a powerful mandate for change, to put America first, at home and abroad. I want to thank President Trump for his faith in me and his selfless leadership for our republic. The troops have no better commander-in-chief than Donald Trump. As I've said to many of you in private meetings, when President Trump chose me for this position, the primary charge he gave me was to bring the warrior culture back to the Department of Defense. He, like me, wants a Pentagon laser-focused on lethality, meritocracy, warfighting, accountability, and readiness.
As you heard there at the end, there were a couple of interruptions as protesters shouted out and were removed from the hearing. Hegseth received strong endorsements from prominent conservatives who praised his vision for refocusing the military on its core mission of deterrence. Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary, posted, "It is refreshing to hear someone relentlessly focus on warriors without playing Washington's word salad game of forcing nominees to talk like social workers who run government agencies." Bradley Devlin, politics editor at the Daily Signal, criticized Democrats' questioning as theatrical, saying Many Senate Armed Service Committee Democrats' behavior revealed the sad truth that most Senate hearings, confirmation or not, are kabuki theater. Ned Ryan, president of American Majority, described Hegseth's performance as exemplary. He said that he communicated a clear vision for a new day at the Pentagon where the Department of Defense leaves behind the weakness of woke and focuses on deterrence through strength. Social media erupted with support for Hegseth, with some commentators mocking Democrats' handling of the hearing, and believe me, there was plenty to mock if you saw any of it. CNN political commentator Scott Jennings remarked, "Why do Democrats send their dumbest members to this important committee?" Good question, Scott. Former HUD Secretary Ben Carson and his wife Cindy praised Hegseth for staying on course despite Democrat opposition, saying this hearing has made two things abundantly clear. One, the left remains fully committed to disastrous, woke, weak, and failed policies. Two, Pete Hegseth is going to be a fantastic Secretary of Defense. Hegseth emphasized his priorities of rebuilding the military strength, moving away from what he and his supporters characterize as woke policies that undermine readiness. He faced pointed questions from Senate Democrats at times who accused him of lacking the necessary qualifications and criticized his comments about the military's focus on diversity and inclusion. One of those, Senator Elizabeth Warren, asked if he would vow not to work in the defense industry for 10 years after leaving the Pentagon when his term is up. Here's the exchange.
Now, Mr. Hegseth, you have written that after they retire, generals should be banned from working for the defense industry for 10 years. You and I agree on the corrosive effects of the revolving door between the Pentagon and defense contractors. It's something I would have liked to talk with you about if you'd come and been willing to visit with me. But the question I have for you on this is, will you put your money where your mouth is and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about because
you can
it's
think
not
about
one
it right
that,
now.
It's not one. My motivation for this job
I understand
has never
that. I
been
just
about
need
what
a
could
yes or no
conceivably
here.
come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should be
In
at the Defense
other
Department.
words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. But you're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. So you're saying sauce for the goose, but certainly not sauce for the gander?
I would want to see what the policy of the president
Oh, I'll
is.
bet you would.
One of those gotcha moments. Democrats love them. It's fair for him to say, I need to see the policy. I need to see what we're talking about here. But, of course, she's not taking that. Senator Jim Banks said it's important he gets on the job immediately. We can't wait. Banks noted that a vote on Hegseth's confirmation can't happen until Trump is officially inaugurated on January the 20th, with the committee planning to meet shortly thereafter to advance his nomination. Caroline Downey of the National Review argued that Hegseth's focus is timely and necessary, saying, despite Democrat lawmakers accusing him of forsaking veterans, Hegseth proved that he has always been dedicated to their welfare, not just in words, but in deeds. Senate Republicans expressed urgency in confirming Hegseth. One of the moments of the day was when Democrat Hawaii Senator Massie Hirano, and this evidently has to be one of the dumb ones that Scott Jennings pointed out earlier. The senator from Hawaii, Ms. Hirano, was slammed on social media during the hearing for asking Hegseth if he would lead a military invasion of Greenland if confirmed as a Secretary of Defense. Here's the exchange.
Would you use our military to take over Greenland or an ally of Denmark?
Senator, one of the things that President Trump is so good at is never strategically tipping his hand. And so I would never in this public forum give one way or another direct what orders the president would give me in any context.
That sounds to me that you would contemplate carrying out such an order to basically invade Greenland and take over the Panama Canal.
That is a United States senator, by the way. And that was one of her better questions. She had some real doozies. We just don't have time today to really go through them. But there were some remarkable moments during her time. these hearings, each senator gets an allotted amount of time to ask questions, and obviously the questions aren't screened by anyone, and some of them were just downright idiotic. But hey, they're a United States senator. That's their discretion, I guess. That's their they have that option. Trump, of course, has said in recent weeks that he hopes to purchase Greenland from Denmark, referred to Canada as a U.S. 51st state. An outgoing Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is Canada's governor. And, of course, he's vowed to demand that the Panama Canal be returned to the U.S. in full, quickly, and without question. So that's where those questions were coming from, because it's something that President Trump has talked about. You and I talked about it. I got a number of emails and texts from you yesterday who were, I asked you, what do you think that we should use our military and other means to try to get Denmark, for example, to sell us Greenland? Many of you said, within reason, yes, because it would just help our position in the world, our defenses, if we owned Greenland. Quite frankly, I think it's just amazing that Donald Trump came up with this. Viewers of the exchange with Hirano erupted on social media after a question. Representative Nancy Mace from South Carolina said Hirano was playing judge, jury, and executioner based on lies and stupidity. I can't argue with that one, Representative Mace. There's a lot of talk about making America great again, and it begins with making America healthy again. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss are at the forefront to educate and guide you to be your best self. The millions being spent in propping up Big Pharma are astounding, only to create long-term dependency and harmful side effects. Let's take a natural approach that isn't connected to a pharmaceutical company's bottom line. The coaches at PhD Weight Loss will show you how. The entire program is centered around science and nutrition, a proven roadmap that has helped over 8,000 clients lose over 331,000 pounds. You'll learn what to eat and when, how to quiet cravings, and finally get rid of that belly fat. Plus, you'll never take a medication. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2025? Do it the natural way with PhD Weight Loss, here to lead the charge to make America healthy again. Call PhD Weight Loss and schedule your consultation. 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. On the text line, Mr. Thomas in Morganton says, I'm for the U.S. buying Greenland if the price is right. But we should not force him to sell or just take it. That would make us criminals and thieves. Also would not put us in favor with God, who is the creator of the earth. Faye writes, I watched much of the hearing for Hegseth. Dems are brutal, and the female senators acted as if they had a lead or had led a battalion in World War II. You're right, Faye. Let me suggest to those who know more than me, please send Senator Warren to the coast with Biden. Oh, that would be an interesting. That would be an interesting pair for sure. Representative Thomas Massie has been removed from the influential House Rules Committee after voting against Speaker Mike Johnson during the House leadership election. Massie clarified on X that his departure was voluntary and not punitive, saying that I volunteered to step aside if the Speaker wanted to place someone else on the Rules Committee and he chose that option. This was not retribution for my vote against him. Sure. Yeah. Massie explained that his opposition to Johnson stemmed from Johnson's reliance on Democrat support to pass significant spending bills, a move that conflicted with Massie's hardline libertarian principles. Look, I got to say, Thomas Massie made a point. And after making his point, very similar to South Carolina Republican Ralph Norman, and there was one other, I forget, Representative Self, I forget where he's from. They made their point in that initial vote, but then they changed their vote in order to elect Speaker Johnson. Thomas Massie should have done the same. And when he says he volunteered to step aside, that was a gentlemanly thing to do, rather than forcing the speaker to replacing him. But when you cast votes like that, when you oppose a majority, or actually a supermajority, I mean, Thomas Massie was the only holdout, the only Republican holdout, and I get it. He was upset with Johnson. I get that. And we're going to have to hold Speaker Johnson accountable. but you got to move forward. And he faced the consequences of withholding that vote. I hope Thomas Massie will get in line, and Thomas Massie will be a leader to try to support Donald Trump. We'll see. The House Republican Conference, in a closed-door meeting yesterday, voted to update the Rules Committee. Now, the Rules Committee is very important. A lot of people, you hear about the Ways and Means and the Education Committee and some of the others. The Rules Committee basically has the authority, along with the Speaker, to decide what legislation makes it to committee assignments and eventually makes it back out on the floor. Representative Morgan Griffith is a member of the House Freedom Caucus, replaced Massie, and I think that was a good choice. Representative Virginia Fox, Republican from North Carolina, will chair the panel, succeeding Representative Michael Burgess, who retired. And Representative Guy Reschenhauer was also removed with Representative Brian Jack, a freshman from Georgia. Massie, who was initially appointed to the Rules Committee as part of the 2023 agreement to secure Representative Kevin McCarthy's speakership, said he looks forward to focusing on his work with the Judiciary and Transportation Committees, which are two very important committees as well. Do you think that was the right thing to do, for Thomas Massie to step aside, knowing that he probably was going to be forced off anyway? Should Speaker Johnson, when Massie offered to step aside, should Speaker Johnson have said, no harm done, keep your seat on the Rules Committee? Or was he right in accepting that resignation and replacing him? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Massie's removal follows growing tensions, of course, within the Republican Party over his often uncompromising positions. He can really just make a decision on an issue and hold fast. That can be good. That can be bad, I guess. One Republican lawmaker said that 98% of the conference wanted Massie off the rules. His hardline stances have often isolated him within the GOP caucus, they said. The Rules Committee, again, plays a critical role in determining the legislative agenda by deciding which bills make it to the House floor. It also sets up the terms of debate and whether amendments are allowed. So, again, it's a very powerful committee. If you want to get something done, you got to have support on the Rules Committee. Massie's opposition to Johnson reflects, of course, broader ideological divides within the GOP. Let's not kid ourselves. Hopefully, we're going to have a few months here to where they rally around Trump's proposals. But we have some division in the GOP caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives. Let's just be honest here. Thomas Massie is one of those. Massie and others criticized Johnson, of course, for compromising with the Democrats. And that was the wrong thing to do. Johnson had a big misstep there. When you go from a continuing resolution that started out, we're told, at 21 pages, and you bring in 1,500 pages, over 1,500 pages, because you've sat there and allowed Democrats to load it up, and you expect your caucus to support it? No, that's not going to happen, and it shouldn't happen. Speaker Johnson should not have put that bill forth. I think he learned from that, or at least I hope he did. Massie, a Republican from Kentucky, often is critical of foreign aid, and his advocacy for conservative fiscal policies have been a hallmark of his tenure. He's not for sending money all around the world, which, hey, kudos to him. I agree. Massie's departure, of course, underscores the continued balancing act that Speaker Johnson faces in trying to keep a very narrow margin in line. We'll see. With some of the new appointments in place, the Rules Committee will continue shaping legislative priorities. And again, hopefully they'll understand that they have to make a priority. Some of them may have to hold their nose from time to time in order to get Donald Trump's agenda completed. These first months, the first 100 days, we talk about it a lot, is very important. We've got to support Donald Trump and get what he wants passed and quickly, because time is of the essence here. Continuing today's show, and we have a new feature today. It's Walhalla Holla Wednesday. You know, for the past couple of decades, the Walhalla Performing Arts Center has been one of the upstate's premier entertainment destinations. And through their tireless efforts, they plan on doing the same for the next 20 years. And boy, do they have some great shows over there. Like this weekend, Friday and Saturday, one of the most energetic, charismatic groups in the music industry, Mother's Finest. They have defied boundaries. They've created their own genre. And for those of you who have followed them over the past 17 years of their entertaining their fans with the music they love, you understand about Mother's Finest. They haven't lost any of their signature energy and passion. They're veterans of the music industry. They actually were inducted in the Georgia Music Hall of Fame. Many of you are fans of Mother's Finest. You're going to have a chance to see them this weekend at the Walhalla Performing Arts Center. You can experience it for yourself. Go to walhallapac.com, walhallapac.com for a full schedule of upcoming performances. And boy, do they have a lot in store for you in 2025. Hey, and we got a couple of tickets for those of you who listen to Sunrise Carolina each Wednesday. We're going to start doing this every Wednesday, Walhalla Holla Wednesday. Text WIN to 800-905-0989. 800-905-0989. Just text the keyword WIN and register to win a couple of tickets for this weekend's performance of Mother's Finest. Again, Friday and Saturday. The tickets are for Friday night. So text WIN to 800-905-0989. The Congressional Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, they have their own caucus, by the way. A number of members of the U.S. Congress are going to be part of the DOGE caucus. And it's set to hold its second meeting today. And they're going to unveil a set of guiding principles aimed at reducing government waste. That is their primary objective. And they're going to be looking at inefficiencies as well. These principles, of course, align with the goals of the DOGE Advisory Panel, which was established by President-elect Donald Trump. The caucus outlined 8 primary goals in a draft memo that Fox News Digital reported last night. The document emphasizes a commitment to a streamlined accountability, taxpayer-focused government with goals ranging from practical reforms to symbolic commitments to fiscal responsibility. For example, taxpayer-centric governments. The memo states that the federal programs and regulations must provide clear value to taxpayers. Me and you, we foot the bill. We work hard to pay taxes. So we need to see the value of any program that our government has, right? They say that this has to demonstrate effectiveness while minimizing unnecessary costs or burdens. The caucus also prioritizes addressing all forms of waste, fraud, and abuse in government operations, including targeting low-hanging fruit like underutilized federal office space. The federal government has office space all around the country that's sitting there empty because too many of the woke federal employees have been allowed to stay home. Now, maybe they continue to work from home, but there's no reason for us to lease them an office that they have the option of coming to or not. They're going to focus on that. Also, they're going to focus on results. Any federal agency or program that cannot demonstrate tangible benefits to you and me, the taxpayer, is going to be subject to reform or maybe even total elimination. This is something that we have needed for years because our federal government and the bureaucracy is so bloated, and nobody has ever tried to go back and reevaluate an agency. There's so many agencies out there who had sunset clauses in the original law that have passed, but yet they continue to collect a check. One of their other, of course, goals is to roll back bureaucracy. The memo stresses that all regulations should be firmly grounded in statute, emphasizing the role of Congress as a policy-making body and not unelected bureaucrats like the Biden administration and other previous administrations have loved. We have allowed the executive branch of the government. Joe Biden has signed so many executive orders or his rulemaking body has instituted rules that the Congress never planned to take place. It hurts everybody. It's time that we look at the federal government and realize that the sooner we can pare it down, the better. Now, it's going to involve some pain because there's going to be a lot of federal bureaucrats who are going to lose their jobs. And they're going to have to brush off their resume and go find a job in the private sector. They're going to have to prove their value, which is going to be something new to them because they have been so used to getting that federal check every month, whether they work or not. But I hate it for them because I don't want to continue working for over half of the year to pay their salary. Do you? The caucus is co-chaired by Representative Aaron Bean. He's a Republican from Florida. He emphasized the caucus's commitment to clear and transparent communication, stating that their principles are designed to resonate with all Americans. In other words, they got to sell it to us. Representative Pete Sessions from Texas, he stated that every dollar spent must yield direct benefits to taxpayers, prioritizing accountability and efficiency. And then Representative Blake Moore from Utah, he's vice chair of the House GOP conference, Moore stressed that the urgency of reining in wasteful spending and making Washington more effective. I love this stuff, folks, and we have to keep their feet to the fire and make sure that they do this. Make sure that they don't wimp out. Make sure that as these federal bureaucrats start pushing back and whining because they're losing their job or their entire agency is being closed down, make sure that nobody is untouchable. If they really put these categories or these, if they use these goals as ways to show whether or not an agency has been efficient or not, and if they don't pass the test, if they don't pass the smell test, then they're gone. And I hope they have the stomach to do it. So far, we haven't seen anybody at this point who has the stomach to do it. The caucus has garnered support from Republicans and some Democrats, by the way. Several Democrat members attended the first meeting. That's a good sign. The initial gathering back in December was somewhat of an introduction to the group's mission, and it kind of laid the groundwork for future collaboration because, look, that's a good thing. Yes, Republicans have a slim majority. I'm talking about a few votes here. But if we can get the Democrats to buy into, and there's some good Democrats, there are some Democrats who are not woke, who are more in the middle of the road and fiscally conservative. They don't want to see the money being wasted just like we don't. Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, of course, they're the co-chairs of the DOGE advisory panel. They visited Capitol Hill late December to talk with the panel about their goals and to talk with the caucus about what it's going to take to get this accomplished. The DOGE caucus intends to prioritize transparency and accountability while rolling back regulations. And look, Donald Trump hasn't seen a regulation yet that he doesn't hate. Donald Trump rolled back so many regulations in term one. And, of course, Joe Biden broke the record on signing new regulations. It's time for the federal government to get out of our way and to stop spending our money. Hey, quick reminder, text the keyword WIN if you'd like a couple of tickets to see Mother's Finest on Friday at the Walhalla Performing Arts Center. It is Walhalla Holla Wednesday. Text WIN to 800-905-0989, and you could be the lucky winner to a couple of tickets to see Mother's Finest this Friday night at the Walhalla Performing Arts Center. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, you know, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Over the past year, we've seen many of our favorite hometown restaurants, bars close because of liability insurance in South Carolina. It's become unaffordable. The South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association was formed by a group of citizens concerned with the direction of the South Carolina bar industry. The purpose of the association is to have a unified voice in the state capitol to advocate for tort reform and other things that are needed in order to help save the bar and tavern business in South Carolina. Joining me today is Chris Smith, the executive director of the South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association. Welcome, Chris. How are you?
I'm well, Joey. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
It helps us get the word out on this issue.
Well, this is an issue that that affects everybody. And you guys had a news conference in Columbia. Yesterday, of course, was the opening day of the legislature. You guys were down in Columbia. You had a news conference. Talk with us about that, who you talked with, and what you hope to accomplish.
Yeah, so we had a press conference with the South Carolina Policy Council, the Mom and Pop Alliance, SC Venue Crisis, the Restaurant and Lodging Association, and a couple other groups. We've been meeting over the past few months together, kind of to go over overall tort reform. The way the laws are now, it's unfair and unequitable for businesses to stay open. And as the governor loves to tout that we are one of the business friendliest states in the country. So we want him to stick to that word, and also the state legislature to stick to that word and change these laws. So that way bars, taverns, pool halls, bowling alleys, venues can stay open. So that was the purpose. And we met with a lot of different legislators. I'm still here at the state capitol. So I've got some more meetings today. And so we're getting a positive sense here that something will get done this session.
Yeah. Well, and that's good news. You know, I've had a number of members of the South Carolina House and the state Senate on the show over the past few weeks, and this has been one of the questions that I've asked them. In fact, yesterday morning, I had Representative Jordan Pace on with me, and we specifically talked about tort reform and what it's going to take. And you're right. I mean, I think the situation that bar and tavern owners and restaurant owners have found themselves in because of the liquor liability issue, that has just really brought the overall issue that we've had. And you're right. It's not just your industry, but other industries. It took you guys, and unfortunately some of the popular restaurants around the state to close to really get people's attention in what's happening, because you're right. We have a situation in South Carolina where people like to sue one another, and it's easy for them to sue one another. So let's talk a minute about what legislation has been filed as far as tort reform, because I've heard a lot of different ideas out there. What do you guys hope will pass this year?
So we actually, with that coalition that had a press conference with, we actually will be debuting our own legislation here in the next couple of weeks. We are just tweaking some language, getting some feedback from some of the legislators who are on our side on this issue. So that way we can bring the people who aren't on our side currently into the fold and hopefully get this bill passed. So I know there are a few bills out there that were pre-filed. I know Representative Mark Smith filed one. I know the Speaker, also the Speaker's people filed one. And then there is Senate Bill, I think it's S-114, if I'm correct, that also talks about this issue. So there's a few different bills out there, but we are specifically going to be filing our own bill.
Okay, and what will that consist of? What are the the highlights of the bill that you're going to, and who will be filing it for you?
So that is still up for discussion, but basically it'll change some of the verbiage. Instead of legally intoxicated, it'll say visibly intoxicated, and it will also have a different percentages on who is responsible. So currently, the way it is now is if I walk in the bar at 5 beers, and then I go to bar 2 and I have 2 beers, and then I go to bar 3, I have 1 beer, they're all equally responsible.
Yeah.
Obviously, bar number 1 should have the majority of responsibility because they served me 5 beers, and then bar 2 should have a small responsibility in bar 3. So we're changing the formula on the proportion of who's liable. Same amount, the $1 million, but it's just changing the formula.
Right. Where are you finding support for your cause? I know there's a lot of legislators who have talked about it, and where do you think you're going to find resistance?
Well, I think we're in pretty good shape in the Senate. We lost by 2 votes last year on a bill, but there are 4 senators who lost.
Yep.
So we picked up some votes. So now we should be on the right side in the Senate. And then the House is where our fight's going to be.
Yeah.
The Speaker and his people have pushed back consistently since this became an issue over 2 years ago. So we're gonna have to see what we could do. We're gonna have to put some pressure on. We've got a kind of a campaign that we're going to be doing. With the Bar and Tavern Association, amongst other groups, have money that we're going to be spending, and we'll be targeting places, billboards, social media. If we can get up on TV in certain areas, we're going to do that as well. So.
And don't forget about talk radio.
Absolutely.
So what is the Speaker's objection to what you guys want?
I mean, the problem in the House is just the overall plaintiff's lawyer, ambulance chasers.
Yeah.
I hate to say it like that, but that's basically what it is. And so a majority of the members, are plaintiff's lawyers.
Yep.
And so that's where the pushback is. They look at it that this will take money out of their pocket. So instead of being able to clean up $3 million, they'll only be able to clean up a certain percentage from each place.
Yeah.
So, they look at it putting a dent in their pocket.
Right.
And so that's where the pushback is.
Yep. With me today, Chris Smith. He's the executive director of the South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association. All right, Chris, let's just pretend that you guys get the legislation passed that you want, everything that you want. Once that is done and the governor signs it into law, how long will it take before you'll actually start seeing some relief?
I think it'll take at least, we saw this in Alabama with their dram shop tort reform bill. They are still upside down there. So it could take up to 2 years before we see some relief, or hopefully it'll be quicker. Yeah. I know there's a number of insurance companies that are kind of chomping at the bit to get back in here. Obviously, we're down to, depending on your situation, we'll say overall there are 10 insurance companies.
Yeah.
Most people are only getting a quote from 2 out of the 10 just based on different circumstances, whether you have a pool table or you have a DJ or you do trivia. So things like that.
Right.
That's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah. Has there been any discussion of some type of state-run insurance program, some type of underwriting program that might lure some of these insurance companies back?
Yeah, so there was a discussion about a state-run insurance fund, but you know how government works. I don't know if that's necessarily the answer, having the state government have their hand in the cookie jar, so to speak. And so, I mean, that's a discussion that could be had more if there are certain things in place, certain regulations, and but I'm not really sure, to be honest, that would be the answer.
Yep. With me today, Chris Smith, Executive Director of the South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association. Let's talk about your association, because it's my understanding that you guys, this is a fairly new organization, that you all came together primarily because of this one issue.
Yeah, so that is correct. We were formed in May 15th of last year, to be specific. We kind of saw a void. The SC venue crisis, who started this movement, was kind of taking a back seat. They had been traveling all over the state for basically a year and a half, and got tired.
Yeah.
So I saw there was no one to advocate, and I kind of looked at the restaurant and lodging association and the truckers association, and I said, hey, why don't we get a bunch of people together, put a board together, and let's create an association. We are a 501c6, which means we're a nonprofit, but we can't get involved in specific races, but we can overall get involved in politics.
Sure.
So
Sure.
We can't give money to a specific candidate, but we could give money to the Republican Party.
Sure.
Or the Democratic Party.
Sure.
In certain counties, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Chris, I appreciate your time today, and I hope that you'll check back with us again throughout the session. We'll certainly be watching things and understand that you have a voice here with us for sure, and I appreciate your time.
I appreciate it, Joey. You have a good rest of your day.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.